Thank you so much for joining me for this episode, this early episode of Phil John's VIP. I want to thank you so much. I am your host, Phil John, and happy Friday, everybody. I'm so happy to have my guest that's going to be joining me today. His name is Mike Ray Anderson. Mike Ray Anderson is a entrepreneur. There's really nothing that I can say to you that can really define who this man is. He has such a story, and he's a man of many hats. He's an author. He's a motivational speaker. He's an actor. He's a writer. He's a producer. He's a person who continues to give back. Even to this day. But his story is something that I believe is second to none. And not only that, but if you are a believer in The Secret and you believe in the law of attraction, this brother has exercised the law of attraction to like the fullest degree possible. So that's why I wanted him to. It's been a long time. I wanted him to come a few seasons back, but I finally got a hold of him, and I'm bringing him on so you guys can meet him, so we can have a conversation and engage. It's been a long time since I talked to this brother, and without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the man known as Mike Ray Anderson. I'm about to bring him in now. Here we go. Hopefully he's on time. Where you at, Mike? Where you at? Where you at? You coming? You coming?
What's going on, brother?
Why you gotta come in with a pose? Why you coming with a
I'm
pose?
just saying, man. You know, look, you see that?
Why you coming?
You know, that's that Aquarius light skin stuff, man. You know how we do.
Hilarious. First of all, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh no, my pleasure, my honor, man. I mean, it's an honor to be on your show, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you making the time. I've been wanting to have this for a long time, and I know you've told your story 1,000 times, but again, it continues to amaze me every time I hear it. And then to watch you just kind of elevate and move throughout your life with a sense of freedom and pursuing things that you feel like you have been placed on earth to do is just, it's an awesome thing to watch. So thank you once again.
Thank you,
So
man.
we're going to start out with you actually having a set of circumstances that weren't favorable in your youth and going through that and then coming out. I mean, there's so much. I want to too much. I want to start somewhere, but I really want to start with that because I think that laid the foundation for the man that we see today.
Sure. So, I mean, coming up in very unfavorable circumstances, not just with that situation, but in my household, growing up in a home with an African American Vietnam vet / Korean War vet that was PTSD diagnosed, never treated. He was just thrown back into society, never counseled or anything like that, and just was off his rocker, man. My father was kind of out there, and he made us endure and suffer through domestic violence like almost on a daily basis. It wasn't a time where the police wasn't at my house because of my father, beating on my mom or losing his mind. Because I grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and right next to Fayetteville, North Carolina, formerly known Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty, has a reservoir where they have simulated bombing. So
Wow.
when these simulated bombings go off, yeah, imagine kids having to wake up every day to simulated bombing, and like we was in our own war zone. That's why they call it Vietnam.
Yeah.
These bombs would trigger my father, and he would think he was back in war. And the first person he saw, he thought that was the enemy. He thought that was Charlie. Quite naturally, most of the time it would be my mother. He would jump on her and start pounding her, beating her, and stuff like that. So growing up seeing this, and then just also being held at gunpoint by my father one time. Don't get me wrong, at this to this very day, I got nothing but love and respect for him because I know the situation now. Having gone into the military myself for a short stint and realizing, the programming of the program, is just one of those things that I had to learn how to come to grips when I saw my father on his deathbed, and just realized I had to forgive him in that moment so I don't carry this for the rest of my life. But as time went on and I grew up and became a teenager, of course, my mother, God bless both of them because they're gone and not here with us anymore, but she pretty much got tired of it. And
Uh-huh.
her and my father split up, got divorced. My mother was working for $3.65 an hour as a housekeeper at a hospital. So that wasn't going to work for our family. I jumped into petty drug dealing, and then after that, I graduated to other things and tried to go in the military to handle things, but I got hurt and got a medical discharge. Came back home, went back into the streets. Was messing around, by then with the crack era, selling crack,
Yeah.
selling weapons and guns with some of my military
But you
connections.
know what? I just want to stop you for a minute. What's interesting about that story is that there's a documentary called GI Junkies, right? And it talks about a lot of what it does. It covers a lot of the black and brown brothers that came back from Vietnam, the Korean War, and how the government really didn't take care of them. How in order for them to get their money, there was no space or room for mental care. They had to, in order to get their checks, instead of the treatment, they had to get on methadone in order to
Yeah,
get their money.
yeah.
So that was just a band-aid. So there was no, how do we treat the problem? How do we fix the problem? And I think that, when you look at the demise of the family, it's kind of like those brothers were not treated properly when they got back. They
Not at
weren't
all.
given
Not at all. Not even with housing, because they were thrown into these. Not even if it was a house. There were neighborhoods, but these neighborhoods were designed with cheap houses. They were designed to house the on these veteran home plans, where the majority of the population, if not all the population of these neighborhoods, were African American
Yeah.
males that came home from the Vietnam War, totally lost their mind, drug dependencies, alcohol dependencies. So what do you have there? You have a bunch of bitter children being birthed out of this and being born into struggles that have nothing to do with, with nothing else but violence and drug addiction and alcoholism. And then this turns into these crime infested neighborhoods, which is what I grew up in.
Yeah.
And before you know it, lo and behold, we come to the situation that you mentioned when we first started. At 18 years old, after getting involved with all this stuff, I ended up in the Cumberland County Jail. I was facing the death penalty plus life plus 60 years. I stayed in the Cumberland County Jail in Fayetteville, North Carolina for right at 3 years, waiting for trial. Waiting for trial. No sunlight, no contact visits, visiting through a glass. A lot of crazy things happened. One thing led to another. I really don't like getting into the sentimentals of the case because there's still some sensitivity out there about all this stuff. People don't like to see you come home after things like that, and succeed. So I get it. But at the same time, my destiny was built and designed for a reason. But I was in the county jail waiting for trial. And they finally came to me and said, look, we're going to execute you if you don't take a plea bargain for life. I was like, what? I knew my situation. I knew one situation I wasn't snitching about it. The other situation was pretty much self-defense. But I was just like, what are you talking about? You're going to execute me. Well, we're going to figure out a way to do this. You were one of the craziest cases that pretty much put a bad light on our system here in in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So we're going to execute you unless you take this plea bargain for life. So naturally, you know what? I wasn't, but 2021 by then? So I'm scared for my life.
Yeah.
So I took a plea bargain for life. Went into the North Carolina Department of Corrections, and that switch came on. That switch came on and said, nah, don't submit to this. Do not submit to this. Do not be a victim. Conquer this. And when that switch came on, from the jump, I met a counselor that suggested to me that I needed to get into college while I was in prison. I was like, well, y'all got college in prison? You know what I'm saying? And she was like, yeah, the judge sentenced you to prison, but not hell. I was like, oh, okay, well, I got you. I want to do this. So I started getting college courses. I got 2 degrees. I got a degree in business. I got a degree in computer systems technology. I got 9 different vocational trades. I started tutoring some of the inmates to get their GEDs. I had my own rap group in prison. We won the talent show like every year for 5 years. We call it the Prison Grammy. I was creating. I started writing plays. I was writing poetry. I was spitting poetry on the yard instead of rap. I got tired of battle rap where I was degrading my brothers. I wanted to lift up and enlighten people and be conscious. So I started spitting poetry and found out I was good at that. I saw it on Deaf Poetry, you know what I'm saying, with Russell Simmons, and I said, man, I could do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Def Jam Poetry. I was like, I could do that, and then I started doing that, and then I became the entertainer that I never know I could be before I became incarcerated. And so as time went on, by the time I served 17 and a half years in prison, I became a model inmate. And they decided to give me a second chance, and they paroled me on Mother's Day in 2008.
Wow. So was there always an option of being paroled or
There
no?
was a possibility of parole.
There was a possibility of parole.
And the judge dropped a little nugget at my plea bargain trial because he happened to be connected to my father, and pretty much through Vietnam, a Vietnam chapter of a Masonic lodge that they both were in. So there you have it. There was a little bit of favoritism there that I had no idea existed until years later when I pulled his card. He said, write me for a reference, to be a reference. And so I got them to reach out to the judge, and the judge wrote a reference letter saying that, his case was a little, finicky. There were some things behind there that was out of Mr. Anderson's control. But as a young man, I'm sure he has matured into a great possible resource for the community. And I think that he's fit to come back home. When I heard that letter was written, I was just like, wow, the power of connections and networking, that my father established years ago, and I had no idea. It wasn't until my father was on his deathbed and I was handcuffed to a correctional officer watching my father struggle, getting ready to pass away, that I got a chance to forgive him in that moment and tell him, look, I completely understand. Because by that time, I was reading, researching. I saw what they did to the Vietnam soldiers through research. I saw what the war was about. I was watching movies, you know what I'm saying? I watched Saving Private Ryan in there. And it was just so many things that I can reference and say, okay, well, you know what? My father, that black man, that king deserves my forgiveness, regardless of how much hell he put us through. So when I did that and he was on his deathbed, I felt this emotional rush just like free me and release me from hatred, resentment, and even the temperament of violence that I would think about sometimes. Because there was times in there that I probably could have extended my time dealing with some of them jokers in there. You know what I'm saying?
And you know what's crazy? I think that a lot of times we always think that our situation is uniquely our own. When you get a chance to step outside of it and you look back at it, you look at how it affected so many households almost identically the same way.
Oh man, I had a
Like
whole
it trips
neighborhood
you
to
out.
look at.
It
Yeah.
trips you out to look at it and say like, damn, this shit was by design.
Yeah. I will say this, the neighborhood I grew up in was demonically challenged from that beast of post-Vietnam situations. But we were so talented in my neighborhood, whether it was athlete, musicians, or whatever. We were so talented, but we never got a chance to excel past high school because of our environment. So, we were held back from everything we could do. I wasn't the only talented one from my neighborhood. I mean, there was many of them. And I just decided to mash the gas when I got home from prison.
So what was life like after incarceration?
Woo! It was a big difference. The game that I used to have to shoot for females no longer existed. It was a whole different world. It was just weird. It was like technology made it different. I'm remembering the cell phone I had on the streets before I got locked up was about this big.
Yeah.
And then when I got home, the joint was about this big. And I was just like, okay, this is a change. But one thing I do remember, though, is I still had an opportunity before I came home to get involved with this program, which is what they gave me, the MAP, which is the Mutual Agreement Parole Plan. They gave me 2 years to get to this program to kind of like transition back into society. So I had like community passes where I would go into the community, I would go places and start seeing the outside world. I was on work release, so I was working at a real job, getting a paycheck. Had to pay rent for prison. Had to pay $400 a month still because I was working. So I'm just like, okay, I see you. You're making money, prison. You know what I'm saying? Enterprise. I see what you're doing.
It's
You
so it's
know,
such
and,
a
and and I worked in a horrible factory, a textile factory that dealt with production, slave work. So, you know, I see the transfer of chattel slavery
yeah,
concepts into
yeah,
this prison enterprise, and I said, I have to get out of here and conquer this. And then when I get the opportunity, I will extend the hand back. You know, that's
yeah,
part of my nonprofit. Outside of dealing with adjudicated youth, I also deal with ex-offenders coming back into society, where, you know, set them up with jobs, teach them, you know, human resources interviews, how to fill out resumes, get them to go shopping for some good clothes for an interview or whatever. So all of that, when I fathomed what this system was really designed to do, I said I have to be the complete opposite. I
hmm
can't even contribute to the recidivism rate. I got to get away from that. So
I'm sorry. Somebody said in the comments, but did you get your money back?
what? My money before for rent? No. I, I I got my money back from what I do
Right,
now.
right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
Which is the biggest reparation that I can ever imagine because there's freedom involved, and I am doing what I want to
Yeah,
do. You know, I'm
yeah,
making films, I'm acting, I'm speaking to youth, I'm you know mentoring youth, I'm traveling, I'm getting involved with the same things that entertained me when I was on the inside and kept my mind free. You know, I would get in there, watch TV. I would watch MTV Raps, and it would take me away. I figured out a way to become involved with MTV Raps. When we won our talent show one year. I'll never forget it. My rap group was named Rugged Elements. We won out like our third talent show, and they had a big trophy that year. So he
mm,
gave us the trophy. I said, I got an idea. I took a Polaroid picture, was looking fresh one day, you know what I'm saying? Got my little prison suit all nice and ironed, was looking fresh, took the picture, wrote a letter to Big Tigger,
take it.
put the trophy in a box, sent all of that to Big Tigger,
Yeah,
and he showcased it on Rap City. So
that's what's
shout
up.
out to Big Tigger for bringing me into the world before I even came back into the world.
That's right. That's what's up. So once you got out of once you got out of prison and you started the nonprofit, what was there a main focus at first? Because I feel like you kind of started with one thing and then you kind of branched out, and then opportunities kind of came your way.
My main goal was to introduce me and my testimony first, my life story, through public
Mm-hmm.
speaking. My nonprofit represented what I felt like I can do for the youth that were going through the same thing that I went through, the road that I went down. I look at it like a story of 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 sacrifice. Let's use Christ for example. He went down into hell to see what hell was like for 3 days, just so they could come back and say, all right, well, we don't have to go to hell. I went in and did 17 and a half years just to show these kids this ain't where you need to go.
Yeah,
I
I
did
get it.
17 and a half years so you don't have to do a day. Now, granted, I wish the utopian society existed that youth didn't have to get locked up for their wrongs, but we see our system is designed to strictly do that, you
Yeah,
know, and mainly our minorities, which are actually majorities in my perspective, because we have some strong minds. We are some strong people. We conquer a lot. We come through a lot. We are forced to come through a lot. And when we when we separate ourselves from the suffering and pain of it and look at it as a growing pain and develop ourselves to the point to where now we are equipped for a society that is always targeting us, we still conquer. We overcome. And and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach that concept to these youth that were out here running in gangs, not understanding why a gang was even formed in the beginning and how it was tainted. It tainted to a whole nother level
mm-hmm.
of self-destruction. I wanted to teach these kids what the system was designed to do to them if they did not understand the law. I wanted them to realize that if they were doing something even out of ignorance, they're still considered breaking the law. So I wanted to give these young men some guidance, and I took on the harsher crowd. I took on the guys that had the ankle monitors, that were in the um, the alternative schools, and just, you know what I'm saying, considered to be the throwaway
Mm-hmm.
kids. deemed as the throwaway kids, you know what I'm saying? And I went in there and used a program that I felt like was going to help, which is what I use to this very day, and it's called cinema therapy. I realized that we were amidst a YouTube generation that were visually stimulated all the time. So quite naturally, they were ready to make a video, do a little skit, or whatever it took to learn certain things. So my nonprofit was entitled Polished Souls Foundation Incorporated. It's officially a 501c3 and became one in 2012 and has
Yeah,
been running since, just to make sure that we show every kid that's a diamond in the rough is a soul that deserves to be polished.
that's amazing. And you know, I always feel like, you know, like you gave the example of having to do the time so other people won't have to. A lot of times we don't understand what's happening in the present moment, and not realizing that it's setting us up for where we're really going to be, so that when we get to where we're going, we'll have the power. Like now, you have the heirs. People will going to listen because you actually travel that road that you're telling them not to travel.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
It's crazy. It's ironic. I just saw my nephew's tuning in. Shout out to my nephew, Uncle Daz. He said Utopian Society was the name of his first rap group. Um,
what?
that was the name of his first rap group. And when he was in college, he didn't know that he was inspirational to me because he was doing it.
Yeah.
He had got involved with Lords of the Underground and some other people and all that at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. And he didn't know that he inspired me. And I would take those little pecks of inspiration and apply it to myself on the inside. And it's like, well, if they can do it outside there, and prison is nothing but a microcosm of society, then I'm going to be a microcosm of the entertainer. I want to be in prison and hone my
So
skills
where did that
and become that person.
mindset come from, though? Because that's something that not everybody has. You understand? Like what you thought and what you spoke was always something that would transcend beyond those barbed wires, the fences. You always, everything that you've said is that if they could do it, so could I. If they could get there, so could I. I'm always thinking about how. You know, I'm always thinking about what it's going to be like life after. Even facing all that you were facing, you were still thinking that way. So that's why when I talk about being the poster child for The Secret, I always
Uh-huh.
talk about you, because you fully, without even probably have never, I'm sure you read the book by now, but
Yeah,
before then, it's kind of like, you know, without knowing what you were doing it.
it was
And you were
those
manifesting and
books.
bringing all of those things to you.
It was those books that I was reading on the inside. I remember the first book somebody threw to me, like, "Yo, you want something to read, bro?" I was like, "Yeah." They threw me a Iceberg Slim book, and after reading it, I was like, "I don't like this crap right here." I'm gonna keep it real. I didn't like it. I was like, "Yo, I just came from all of this. I don't want to keep
Right.
reading about this."
Right.
And then my best friend's mother wrote me and said she had a book she wanted to send me, and I said, "Please send it." And it was entitled "As a Man Thinketh" by James Allen. And when I got that little book, I was like, what Miss Linda doing sending me? You know, God bless her soul. What Miss Linda doing sending me this little book? What am I get out of this little book? And when I read that book was so powerful.
Yeah.
And it was talking about, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Uh-huh.
So I told myself, as reading the part that said, you have to create your circumstances with first a thought. Once you create your circumstances with that thought, then it becomes a manifested reality.
Yes.
So when I used it the first time, I was like, I'm going to try this out. When I started school, I said, man, I'm going to graduate from this class with honors. And I did that. I was getting A's. I had a 3.95 GPA when I got my first degree. And I mean, now granted, I had to constantly stay home and do homework. I didn't have the opportunity to go to no frat parties or nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. I got
Yeah,
you. I got
but
you.
I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. I said, if I can see somebody graduating on TV and these speeches I was seeing, I never forget. I saw Oprah doing a commencement speech at a college, rap with the chords around. You know, these kids rap with chords, and I said, man, I'm gonna graduate like that. And sure enough, I had my honor cords and everything when I graduated, walking across that prison stage for graduation, making my mother proud because she was able to come to it. And outside of me being seen on the news for 2 weeks straight because I had one murder charge in 1990, got out on bond, caught another murder charge, and went right back into jail. I was I was on the news for like 2 weeks straight, being considered one of the most highest profile cases. I know that shamed my mother. I said, I'm going to turn this around. That was my biggest inspiration, my mother, and taking the pain away from her that I caused to even go through all of this. Because
So let
she
me ask you a
never,
question.
ever, ever once
Do you?
thought that I was
I'm
that
sorry.
type of person.
Do you still feel like you're still trying to turn it around, even to this day?
I think it's turning around every day because the reason why I know this for a fact is turns around every day is because I'm still at the point to where I got some issue with me. I got a lot of mess with me that is gradually, slowly coming out as I live life every day because I know when I went through what I went through as a child, I embodied that.
Yeah.
I took that upon myself. And I don't know if anybody knows the concept of an Aquarius, but that's who we are. We pull it in and just internalize it so much, and it turns into one or two things. It turns into either encouragement or discouragement. I chose to allow it to become encouragement.
Yeah. 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 I think one of the things, and I've said this to you, and I keep saying it. One of the things that I've always admired about you coming into the industry, because we met as you were coming um,
Like,
into the Hollywood industry.
exactly.
Um, I
The
think that,
HBO stuff and all that.
yeah, for me, I feel like whenever I talk about Mike Ray Anderson, I always talk about somebody who is fearless, somebody who has an incredible amount of courage, and someone who doesn't like. I think that those of us who have been trained and traumatized by the educational system, that things are supposed to be done a certain way. Those have been overtrained to think that we're supposed to proceed a certain way, and we always want to color within the lines to make sure that we're doing everything right. I always talk about you, and I always say Mike always colors outside of the lines. He never stays inside of those lines because,
That's how I
and
did when I was 4 years old. Ever
he was
since 4 years
fearful of
old, I
color.
colored outside of those
Yeah,
lines.
yeah,
I'm glad you said that because you reminded me. I used to get ridiculed for my homework in kindergarten, and
right.
but it looked beautiful to me.
Yes,
So
yes,
I was just like, well, one day you're gonna see the value of
right,
this. Yeah,
exactly. Truly, truly, truly. And to see all the stuff that you've done as far as the speaking engagements, the film that you have on Amazon, A Polished Soul, your connections, all the doors that you've opened by just doing what you do and being fearless is, to me, it still amazes me. It's like I feel like you're on this trajectory of all your own, and it just watching you and seeing how you do everything, because you you share, you're a sharer, because again, because the same way you thought that they could do it, I could do it too. It's the same thing. It's the same way you give back. If I could do it, so can you, right? And
that's
you
how
don't have
I feel.
and you don't have any kind of guard up to say that I can't give it to you, or I don't even care if you don't give it back. But I want to give it to you, and
And
those are the things.
it's
Yeah,
just because so much has been given to me by my freedom giving back.
yeah,
And I'm just like, there's nothing in the world that's comparable enough to say that there's a value of, or amount of what I'm going to give back. It's endless. It's infinite. It's nothing. There's no cap on what I want to give back to whoever,
mm-hmm.
and then when people team up with me, sometimes in the moment it doesn't seem like we're hitting the end game, but then I have to pivot somewhere on down the line. Because mind you, making my life story was one of the biggest financial struggles in the world that I had.
I'm sure.
And it was just one of those things that when people would come along and drop seeds and help, that I said, well, man, what if this doesn't do what I wanted to do financially? I had to get rid of that process of thought because I said, well, nah, Don't worry about it. This is this is a sacrifice. Everybody decided to jump on board with you. Keep in mind that this movie is really honestly designed to do that, to give back and say that if I can do it, you can do it. I don't care if I don't make $1 million off of this. I don't care if I'm the actual budget still in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
It's giving back. You know what I'm saying? Infinitely what I want people to realize about themselves, the secret. There's a secret there about yourself that you need to tap
Right.
into, and the law of attraction that you need to tap into. I even mentioned that in the movie. I talk about my law of attraction in prison,
Right.
and only because I've been exposed to this stuff. For somebody to even put that in a book and give me the opportunity to read it, I am forever thankful
Yeah.
that I, was able to even encounter that mode of knowledge and understanding and the wisdom later on. So, it's to me, there's nothing that can compare to the freedom that I received. You know how long I've been home now? I've been home 15 years.
Wow.
How does it even
No,
seem like that?
it
See,
don't. It don't. Would you consider yourself to be an intuitive person?
I really feel I am, and I think that's thankfully for my creator given Aquarius nature. Um, and I don't want to just say that only Aquariuses are like that, but I will say this. There's a reason why I was born on February 4th, 1972. There's a reason. The way that the universe aligned in that moment, the reason why a certain star may have been out at that time that wasn't out any other day or whatever, sent a form of energy into my soul because my destiny was already written. So I had to become intuitive.
Yeah.
I had to realize that when I got to prison, I could have messed it up by swinging on a dude that was in front of me talking junk, or I didn't mess it up because I processed it and became intuitive enough to know that he didn't really want that smoke
Mm-hmm.
and walk away, and was confident enough to turn my back on him and walk away without being shanked.
Yeah.
Had I engaged, and it ain't gonna be nice now. Confrontation with Mike Anderson ain't nice. You know what I'm saying? But you
Right.
know,
Right.
you know, had I not walked away, who, what could have possibly gone wrong in that moment? Because I didn't choose to keep progressing in that moment. Instead, I chose to regress. You know what
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
saying? And regression is always the first thing or the first element of man's failure.
Yeah.
Pride. Before the fall comes pride. So
Yeah.
had I stood in a prideful moment and messed up and worried about what I looked like to other people because this dude even had the opportunity to say what he said to me,
Right.
had I worried about that in the moment, I'd have been all jacked up. I wouldn't be right here on this interview with you. I
Yeah.
know that for a fact.
But it continues to grow and develop. I remember, and tell you, this is the thing about you that plays in my head. You said to me one time, because the way I was trained to move in this industry is one way. And you told me, Phil, you can't always do it that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just always be like, you're very like mechanical and methodical in how you move. Sometimes you can't always move that way. Sometimes it ain't always about the training, and it's not always the level in order like that. And it's true, because it's like there's a lot of people who will, like the old saying, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? There's a lot of people who are upset because you see someone move forward and advance faster than you, or they get accolades and you feel like, I've done everything right, I followed the blueprint that was laid out before me, and why isn't owed? And I realize is that life don't work that way. But we've been conditioned in this country to believe that if we complete a required, whether it's where, if you complete uh uh, elementary school, you go to junior high. You complete high school, you go to high school, and you're conditioned to believe that if I fulfill all the requirements, that I'm automatically guarantees me promotion. And in life, it doesn't really work that way.
Nah, And what's so crazy is that you 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 said something that I don't know if you remember what my saying was back in the day when we had that conversation. That is to this very day. I think my nephew just commented on it. It's God out the box is awesome.
Yeah.
And my whole description of that is this: God out the box. Let's take the Creator, the universe, Yahweh, Allah, Buddha, whatever, if you will. Let's take that concept and remove it from every building that we have trapped it in. Every church, every mosque, every temple, whatever that we have trapped it in, which is the box. Let's take it out and create a much more vast existence of what this does for us, how it works for us, and when it really works, because faith without works is dead. So when I heard you, I don't know if you remember, I heard you in a moment of frustration.
It probably was.
And my biggest enemy is frustration.
Right.
And I don't want to see anybody else go through it just as much as I don't want to see myself go through it. So it was in that moment I made sure that I took the time that I needed to take to explain to you why you ain't got no reason to be frustrated. Keep it moving. And I feel like you grew into that even more so because I remember we had a conversation at the coffee shop right there in the middle of New York.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, Phil, you got this. You got it. I would see y'all first.
Yeah.
I saw y'all first.
Yeah.
Y'all became my benchmark.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I just, again, I'm master gas. That's me.
Yeah.
People tell you I'm
Yeah.
lead foot in a real car. I'm a lead foot. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I will master gas and get somewhere quicker than the other person that's trying to get there.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
yeah, the destination was clear. It's just that my GPS took me a different route.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just awesome to see, man. Truly. So I got some questions that I want to ask you. I ask everybody to come on, and you can feel free to answer them however you want to.
My boy, comedian D. Wish said I'm definitely a lead foot. He could tell you. We don't. Yeah, comedian D. Wish. He's a very talented comedian, man. He's doing big things, and we've been on some trips. We were even at the Super Bowl in Tampa. He performed, for the old school comedian. I mean, old school concert. He was one of the comedians that opened up with some of the greatest comedians that were out there. And to this day, we laugh about a lot of stuff because a lot of people think we're brothers, but I always say, and I don't know why people think you got to be the brother of everybody that's light skinned. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you
everybody
related to some. You related
like
to
we all,
right?
yeah, like we all sing in the group, the bars or something. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, again, it's just. It's one of those things, man. I'm always get to my destination. We did it the other night. We went to go see Dave Chappelle. Funny as hell. But anyway, very talented, genius brother. We went to go see him, and it was a traffic jam. So me and my peoples was in the car. We was trying to get in there and get around. Man, I got around everything. I called somebody that was waiting there longer than me in traffic and still hadn't gotten in. And I couldn't figure out, how did I just get in? It's because my intuition led me down a different path. The road less traveled.
I think you just something about what you just kind of give out into the universe, man. It just works in your favor.
And it's beautiful. I love it. And I wish I can give everybody in the whole world the same opportunity to even experience that, because it's very liberating. But I don't want to hold you up. I'm ready for your questions.
Here's my question. Right. Well, this is a good segue into that, So you've been in the industry for a very, very long time. You've been doing your thing. You've been making films. You've been doing guest appearances like this. And you've been around some of, our industry colleagues. Tell me, what do you know now about the business that you thought you knew before you entered?
That just because somebody is on a different tier than you, that may seem very admirable in a higher tier, they may be seem more successful to you, appear to be more successful to you, that you don't always have to share your ideas with them because that's that person you think that's going to carry your idea. Nah. that's a no-no. Because you can intimidate somebody with your genius idea
Mm-hmm.
and lose that relationship. I've lost a relationship because I think I intimidated somebody with an idea, and I would have loved to have kept that relationship. Um, because I don't like losing relationships with people that I honor as legendary people, you know. But I think had that person not passed away like years later, I probably wouldn't have felt it as much. But
Mm-hmm.
to say that, man, we had an opportunity to fix a relationship that could have turned into something. Because mind you, I'm really not no longer sharing ideas because of that. But what I'm not sharing ideas for is because
What?
everybody's not going to possess the same passion that you have, and they're not part of your destiny all the time just because you meet them along the way.
Yes.
And then if I don't care
Yes.
how famous they are
Yes.
or how much they're in the limelight, you never know if they are insecure about the next man that comes along with a greater idea that they've ever had in their life. You don't even know if that's how they feel. There's an insecurity there that I can't help you with that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help anybody with their insecurities, but what I can help you with is the security of our relationship. To know that, yo, I'm gonna work just as hard as you probably have ever worked. You
Yeah.
know, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. So I'm hungry every day, even if I make it. And that's why I say if I make it, because when I make it, the if becomes it has happened. So when it has happened, it's only because I worked as hard as I told you I was going to work.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you know, I don't ever, I've been in situations where people have gotten the credit for some great work I've done, but I get it and I understand it, but I can't let that happen no more.
Yeah. What advice?
Because it ain't about the credit.
I'm
It ain't
sorry.
about the credit. It
Yeah.
ain't about the credit of the work. It's about how I'm viewed by those that think they couldn't have done it, but I'm telling them you can do this
Yeah.
too.
Truly. What advice would you give your 19-year-old self?
Stay away from those dudes. They ain't shit. Them motherfuckers ain't shit. Stay away from them. That's what I would have said. There was some people that I was around and I wish I would have never encountered in life sometimes, but that's part of my destiny. But what I will say to my 19-year-old self is don't be afraid to believe regardless of where you are right now.
What would you like your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that of a man that saw, a man that came and saw and conquered, meaning anything that I set my eyes on to believe that I can achieve, it's exactly what it became, an achievement. And I want my legacy to be that of somebody that can be mirrored by a lot of the young black men or young men, period, that go through life struggling with circumstances that are placed upon them, that they are forced to endure and can come out of it a victor, can come out of it victorious. I want my life and legacy to be an example of that.
What are you grateful for? Or take that back. What brings you joy?
What brings me joy?
What brings you joy?
The fact that I am doing exactly what I want to do. I am working in an industry that I want to work in. I am doing what I want to do. I'm acting. I'm landing roles. I'm getting income for it. It's my job and it's my career. Currently, what brings me joy is I'm back in school. I the military. I finally got my benefits from the military, and they're paying for me to go back to school. And I've enrolled in Georgia State University to get my official film degree.
That's right. I saw that. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in my third semester. I've been on the dean's list so far every semester, and that brings me joy to know that I still got a brain.
Right.
I'm 51 years old and I can still study.
Right.
You know, I'm thrilled by the fact that I had to write a paper for a professor who's 20 years younger than me, and they're giving me kudos because I did a hell of a paper. All that stuff to me, man, it comes from Maslow's needs of hierarchy. You know, it's a hierarchy of needs to the point to where you got to think about it, man. I don't care what anybody says. In the most positive way, every human being is a natural narcissist, and
Yeah.
there's something we need that becomes part of our love language. You know, love meaning how do we love ourselves more? What languages will allow us to do that? And one of my love languages, I guess, is to be looked upon as somebody that can achieve, that can be successful. You know, I love self-reinforcement on my behalf to say, yo, all right, I'm gonna do my job. What's your job? Because together we can do a job. So joy comes from a lot of things, man. Fatherhood, everything, man. I'm just very, very thankful for all the things that I can be that they told me I wouldn't be when I was young. They said I wouldn't see 21.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey,
At 51.
30, yeah, 51. Yeah, 30 years later,
Yes.
past
Yes,
what you
sir.
told me I wouldn't see. So don't tell me I'm not going to see nothing. You can't do that to me because
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best to make sure you're wrong about that, and because I don't like self-doubt. I don't like discouragement. I don't like, the mental tricks that people use to bring somebody down and tear them down to their demise. You know what I'm saying? I'm very fed up with hearing about suicidal things because I'm knowing and understanding that comes from people being tore down and then forced into depression to where they don't even want to exist anymore. I'm tired of that because that means we're not helping our fellow man understand and believe that there is so much they can achieve, that there's so many things that contribute to society. I'm tired of this, man. It's there are things that do get into my spirit and my soul, and that's one of the things, man, because I've had people and friends that have taken themselves out, and it hurts just as much when they're gone. They may not feel it, they're not feeling it, but we are, you know. And to think that you could have been there in that moment to even uplift that person. Sometimes even I'm tired of being so busy sometimes that I'm not able to talk to people. I'm trying to change that. I was grinding so much because of income, but I'm at the point to where the money is going to be there,
Yeah. Yeah.
whenever is
Yeah.
designed to be money has to be attracted to you.
Yeah.
You can't chase it.
So what are you
That's
grateful
another
for?
law of it.
Finally, what are you grateful for?
What am I grateful for?
Yeah.
I'm grateful for mercy. I'm grateful for mercy because without mercy, nothing else would have been here.
Nothing.
Because I was 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old Mike. I was a good dude, but there was some thoughts in my head that I know I adhered to and went down the wrong path. But mercy, by far, is my greatest companion.
What was
If I can make
what
her
was
a character, if I can make Mercy a character in a movie, it'll be the greatest love story.
Damn. Damn. I'm sorry, I felt that one. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I could see it.
I know
Yeah.
because it's so real, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of people overlook it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What what do you what advice would you give to a young actor you see on their grind and they feel like, because there's a lot of young people that come into business and they get so consumed with trying to get it, try to get it, and they're just going full swing. And you know, we both know that you're gonna hit hurdles, you're gonna hit walls, you're gonna come into people who you look at as a hero, and you realize you get to know them and you realize that they're not your hero. What advice would you give to them just to stay afloat?
Become your own entity. Exercise in your autonomy and not the identity of others.
Yeah.
And then get ready to encounter a million no's before you hear your first yes. If you can endure those million no's, your first yes is going to be so celebratory, and it's going to be so motivating, and it's going to make you realize, damn, I'm glad I didn't stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And go hard on your auditions, man. Don't be afraid to create a character.
Right.
Don't if they give you a script and you don't know who this person is, make that person, create that person.
Yeah.
My last one of my most recent movies that I did, it's on Tubi actually and some other streaming platforms, but it's Shark Waters. I played the captain of a boat. I ran that boat because I created the character that it's gonna show you he gonna run some shit.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, didn't know nothing about the character. All I knew was something in this script's telling me that this Joker runs something. It was originally designed for a female, but they decided to rewrite it for a male for me because of the audition. Yeah. So in that movie, I became that Captain Banning, and I'm telling each and every one of you young actors, old actors, or whoever that's still grinding and ain't got what you got,
or people trying to get back into it that have left
to make sure you create the character. Don't let them create you as a character. You create the character. You set the tone. You look at the moment before, you find your tools that's necessary to kill that audition, and don't be afraid to go hard, man. I don't care if I'm...
And definitely for me, one of the things I always tell people is like, learn how to separate the craft from the business, because those are two different animals.
Boom, 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 boom.
You got to separate the two.
Yeah, because I mean, if you doing the audition because you're worried about what the check gonna look like, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
But if you realize that you are an actor, a thespian, you are an artist in that moment that was designed to bring this character to life, then that's when you're going to realize that the craft matters more than the business.
So what's next for Mike Ray Anderson? What we got coming up next?
Shout out to my partner, Jeremy Little. We're running this film in the film festival circuit, and it is on fire right now. It's called In the Matchbox. It was a story.
I think I know Jeremy.
Jeremy Little.
Yeah, from up in New York, Atlanta,
North Carolina.
Why do I feel like it? I feel like I know him. I don't know why.
Another light-skinned dude that we play. We play cousins. We play cousins on the movie. Actually, you know, and that's one of the projects that I was behind directing. And but we got Hawthorne James. He's in that also.
Okay.
This story is amazing. He reached out to me, Jeremy did, on social media, and we teamed up, partnered up on it, and it became one of the best manifested projects that's like on fire right now in the film festivals. We're probably on our 20th film festival. It's crazy. I've never gone this long in film festivals. I'm film festival exhausted.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
But it's a good exhaustion. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those ones where I'm like holding on and like, we getting there. You know what I'm saying? And you know, you drink a drop of water, like, and keep going. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, one of those things. And I hate to be a bit animated, but that's just how I feel about it.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
And then we're gonna go into filming the feature length for that. I'm working on a project for Shardy Film. It's going to be a series. It's called Angels Charge. It's what we call Christian horror. That's pretty dope story. It's Caribbean based. and just I got 2 major roles that I landed. I'm waiting for filming to come up real soon. So waiting on that probably around the springtime. And I'm staying in school, get my degree in film, keep being on the
Pray
dean's
for the
list.
strike and pray for the strike to be over as soon as possible.
Man,
That's what we all do.
I am praying and hoping that that streaming negotiation comes through, because then we all will be rich.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I always wondered, a lot of people think acting is a pretty game, but I'm gonna tell you something. That that check ain't always what you think it
Nope.
is. Once you leave set, it's over, said, and done when it comes to streaming.
Yep.
But if they bring that negotiation factor in, we're good. You know what I'm saying? Because there's some good projects that we're all a part of that we know.
People don't know, once it goes to network and goes to streaming, it's still being viewed. It's very easy to go to network.
Yeah, but we don't see royalties off those views.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's no regulation to that at all. But prayerfully, hopefully, I'm praying to wake up one morning between next week and the week after and just hear on the news, strike is over.
No. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to wake up in the next week or two, and it's going to say strike is over, and the deal will have.
Listen, I'm riding your coattail on this one.
Okay.
I'm holding on your coattail on this one.
Ride, brother, ride. Let's go. I got a long coattail. I got a triple fat goose on. Hang on.
Mike, brother, thank you so much.
My pleasure,
for this opportunity
brother.
to come talk, man.
I'm
glad that we got this opportunity, man. Stay blessed. Always.
You as well.
Always in my prayers, bro.
You as well. Yo, good job on what's his name? What's the little character's name? Crumpy? No, what's his name?
What?
The character, the dude that you recently played. The little dude, I think he was telling something. What's his name?
Stop. You mean East New York? East New
York.
Yeah. Stuffy.
Yeah, Stuffy. I was like Crumpy. I couldn't remember.
Unfortunately, we got canceled. But
oh nah, man. But you bodied that. You killed it. See, you did what I say when you create the character. You created that character.
But I know that character though. I know who that guy is.
See,
I know.
And that's that you used your tools.
Yeah.
You used the tools. You feel what I'm saying? So
So yeah, man. So hopefully after this is over, we'll have some new content and new projects, and we'll see what happens from there.
For sure, my brother. And then thank you so much for having me on the V.I.P show, man. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Stay blessed,
Peace.
Mike.
You as well, brother.